Yo, what's up, strategists? Welcome to the Bitcoin strategy because Bitcoin is the only strategy. In this video, I'll be expanding on one of my last, is Bitcoin Core under attack, which explains how the Bitcoin core devs were proposing to push a bad change into the project. Here, I'll be updating y'all on what has happened since then, how bad actors are trying to morph Bitcoin into a chain of spam and illegitimate projects, and what you can do to defend against it. Now, please note, this video is covering news from early June, around the 9th, but I do believe these points are still strong and I can provide a good 2 sats on this issue. Let's get into it. Now first, what's Bitcoin Core and what's a node? Now, for y'all that don't know what a node is, I'll be explaining it here. If you already know what this is, you could go ahead, I'll put a timestamp on the screen, you could go ahead and skip to that. Now first, on nodes, you could think of a Bitcoin node as a server that accepts, validates, and sorts through transactions on the Bitcoin network. Whether you send a Bitcoin or whenever you send a Bitcoin transaction, a Bitcoin node is the first place it goes. As we can see here, when you sign a transaction and send it off through your wallet, it gets sent to a Bitcoin node, as we can see right here. Now, the node you sent the transaction to then broadcasts that transaction to all other nodes on the network until every computer gets it, as we can see here. Once the first node gets it, so you send it from your phone or your computer, your wallet, it gets sent to the first node, and then that node broadcasts it and branches it off to every single computer on the network. This is how decentralization works. Anyone can run a node and everyone can participate in the network. You can participate in the network. This is the same way that Tor, I2P, and torrenting works. Now second, on Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin nodes come in different flavors. Currently, the major ones are Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Knots. Each flavor comes with a different spin. In terms of core and knots, those are core, which I would say more so focuses on stability, and they're very light on spam. Now on knots, they focus more on user choice and they filter out most spam. Now, choosing the right implementation is vital to the health and the success of the Bitcoin network, but running one in the first place is one of the best decisions you could make. Now, what happened to Bitcoin Core? Why is it under attack? Now, let's take a look at the pull request. As we can see here, it says uncapped data carrier by default. If you don't know what data carrier is, it's op return. It's like a output in Bitcoin. So instead of sending your Bitcoin to an address, you can send it to another output called op return. And it previously had an 83 byte limit, just in case you wanted to add a little extra data on chain. Let's say you had an application that needed like a timestamp or something, you could put it in the op return to make your application work. Now, what they did here is they uncapped that 83 byte limit. Now, you may be asking why made this happen? Well, first we need to look at what makes humans do what they do. Now, number one, the feeling of importance. I don't think they felt important pushing this change into the project as it had a bunch of community backlash. Number two, survival. This is just some of them, just to name a few. Survival, I don't think their life was in danger if they didn't push this pull request. Number three, external pressures, blackmailing. I don't think they were blackmailed. The ones that I think happened here were the incentives. I've heard of a company called BitVM that could have had something to do with the incentives. Maybe they were paid off. I couldn't find too much on this, but the one I think that happened the most were the emotions. I think emotions played into this change, as we can see here by Luke Dasher. Let me find the post. Right here, most developers just want to code. They don't want to deal with drama or confrontation. So they could have just pushed this pull request just to get it through, just to get it over with. They don't want to deal with the drama. As said here, developers don't want to deal with that. They just want to code. Now, the emotions is the key one here, because as we saw with how the pull request was managed, with some people's comments and votes against it getting silenced or removed, we can infer that accepting these changes were probably the result of someone's emotions getting hurt and the limited communication between devs and the community. Many times in this pull request, there were a lot of back and forth between us, the community, and the devs, with some devs dismissing skeptics of the PR as bots or a language model. So if you added a comment to the pull request saying, I don't like it because X, or I don't think you should push this because X, they would say that you're using a language model to dismiss your comment, or an AI. Now, it's weird to see the devs move in the way they did, especially when a year ago they closed another pull request related to op return spam that they labeled as controversial. As we can see here, this is a pull request by Luke Dasher. This is to propose a limit or a filter on spam. And we have this one right here: set default permit bear multisig to false. Now, bear multisig is another way spammers put their spam on the Bitcoin blockchain. What this guy was trying to do was disable bear multisig in the blockchain, because that's a very common way spammers embed their spam into the chain. Now, I found a post over on the Bitcoin Talk forum. I believe this summarizes these changes very well. Now, what this comment here from XMR Hopium, he said, agree with that. My personal view on this is that instead of removing all limits on op return, we should agree on a sane, consistent data size cap, as we did before the 83 byte limit, enough for real use cases, but not open-ended as it is now. Bitcoin should stay lean. If more data is needed, layer 2s can batch it and use op return more efficiently. Progress should be layered, not bloated. I agree with that. That's how it should be. Now, Bitcoin mentality isn't crypto mentality. The main difference between Bitcoin and crypto is the mind of the people. If we as Bitcoiners had the mind of an average Ethereum bro, we would have gladly accepted these op return changes and not resented at all, as we've seen with Ethereum's move from proof of work to proof of stake, making their chain even more obsolete. Bitcoiners understand the task at hand, that is, fixing the world's money, not to fumble the opportunity. If we wanted to store memes and JPEGs and PNGs on our blockchain, we would have went to Ethereum, as we should have. It's the better solution for this type of nonsense. Personally, I didn't run a node to use my power, bandwidth, and storage to relay JPEGs and ordinals on what should be a purely monetary base layer chain. Now, not only is it inefficient to embed these images in a Bitcoin transaction, it exploits vulnerabilities like bear multisig in Bitcoin that the core devs have the choice to fix or somewhat hinder the effectiveness, but they don't. That's why I believe you should protest these changes and actually fight spam on the network with the solutions I'm about to outline right here. Now, what can you do? One thing you can do if you're already running Bitcoin Core and don't want to set up or run a whole nother implementation, then just don't update your Bitcoin Core node. It's the simplest move you can make. By keeping your node a version behind, you're actively protesting any new changes with the benefit of still being able to use the network in its full capacity. Now, the other option would be to run another implementation, that being Bitcoin Knots. This is the route I've chosen. I've left some helpful links in the description if you choose to go the Bitcoin Knots route. Now, to simply put it, Knots gives you more control over your mempool, whether you want to permit PNGs, runestones, and a bunch of other Bitcoin crap or not, whilst keeping your node up to date. But don't just take it from me, take it from the people who are smarter than me, people who've been in Bitcoin years longer than me. The cypherpunkies, as I'm gonna call them. As we can see right here, this is a good thread, or this is a post from Samson Mao. Bitcoin Core has announced they will remove op return limit in their next release. Many users find this to be an undesirable change for a number of reasons. You can refuse to upgrade your Bitcoin Core node and stay on 29.0, which is the version we're on now without the op return changes, or you can run another implementation like Bitcoin Knots. And Bitcoin Knots is pretty much the only other implementation at the moment. Now over here, this is a good thread over on X. I don't know why it's scrolled down that much, but starting with this one, let's talk about filtering inscriptions, because if it's possible, This is the main rationale for blowing out the op return limit to such an absurd degree no longer exists. If we go down here, Adam Back says, isn't this an arms race? Because applying filters upon filters upon filters is just going to keep going. The spammers are going to find new ways to bypass the Bitcoin filters, and then we have to apply new patches, new filters, and then they find another one, new patches, new filters. And then down here, they say, or Bitcoin Mechanic says, if you give me more spam filters, I'm going to run them. So if spammers find new ways to spam the chain, he's going to run them and keep on going and going and going. Now, the comment of the day would be this one from this guy over on X. He says, email spam is also an arms race, yet we race it every day, and we don't give up on it when one spam email gets through. I and others would probably throw in a few sats to help fund a full-time job for a developer whose sole purpose is to think of ways to make spamming Bitcoin more and more difficult, which I think this is the way we should go too. If a spammer finds a new way to spam Bitcoin, we should apply a filter to patch that spam or get it off the chain. And we should keep going and going and going. That's the same way we do with email. So that's the same way it should be with Bitcoin. Now, in short, in light of all the euphoria enacted by the Bitcoin price chart, it can sometimes distract us from what really makes Bitcoin so great in the first place. That is the code base, the nodes, the code written by Satoshi. If we let them, the core devs, change Bitcoin into the likes of the failed projects Bitcoin has so vigorously set itself apart from projects by the likes of Ethereum and Solana, Bitcoin is no longer Bitcoin, it'll be a joke.
The Macintosh is not even a toy, it's a joke.
Only if we resent these changes can we really keep Bitcoin as what it should be, Bitcoin. That's why I and 15% of other node runners chose to run knots over core this time around, and I believe you should too. Now, if you enjoyed this content or found it of any value, please feel free to like, comment, or even subscribe. It's very much appreciated. As always, stay orange pilling, stack sats, and have a great rest of your day.